Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
This is part 2 of my conversation with my colleague, Venu Subramania Iyer. In the previous episode, Venu shared his origin story and some of the things that he learned and how he moved from being a systems engineer to a software testing professional. He answers the question that I asked him towards the end of the last episode on whether software testing should always be independent or whether it can be combined with the development activities. In addition to that answer, he also talks about how he got exposed to agile approaches by starting with an organizational transformation initiative and what he considers as critical for success in agile transformation projects. We talk about a lot of other things and also the importance of having shared or collaborative goals to ensure team success. His thoughts on what skills are needed to be an effective tester. And finally, his tips for persons considering a career in testing. Listen on. So from your experience,
Yes.
would you think that having testing as a completely independent function
Yes.
is better than, say, testing being embedded as part of the development team?
Yeah. So I think this is a tricky question. Yeah. It is also an important question. We need to find an answer. Yeah. So in the earlier days, it was more of an independent testing and it was more of a model of testing center of excellence. I think you already know. Every company had a testing center of excellence. But now it is completely changed actually. So now because of Agile coming into picture, we wanted to have a more of shift left testing. Testing has to be shifted left side, very early stage. The time when you start requirement and design, testing also to be involved. So today I would say we need both actually. So it is not, we cannot have completely embedded into development side. You may find defect early, but then what happens is testing also a kind of profession. Some defects will definitely leak if you have only development testing. On the other side, if you have only independent testing, that's also not good because you may again miss out of defect or you may find defect very late. So there are pros and cons in both the approaches. Today, in my experience, what I have experienced, it is a combination of both actually. So there will be a testing done by development testing, unit testing and integration testing. And the software testing also will happen as a part of our agile life cycle, maybe Scrum or Kanban. As a part of that, definitely we need to integrate testing as a part of development. We cannot separate it. So whenever you have a sprint delivery coming up, it's actually developed, unit tested, and also software tested. But that is not enough. Then in many companies, especially in automotive, even now they have an independent testing team who testing end to end. The reason is today, if you want to test end to end, it takes around 2 weeks time. It is not something we can do in 1 day or 2 days because of technical challenges in automation. So maybe in application side, we can automate the complete test cases. Maybe we can run in 1 day, we can get a complete result, maybe 1,000 test cases or large number of test cases. Whereas in automotive industry, due to lack of infrastructure and also limitation in test tools, the regression testing automation also challenge. Maybe in project what I have worked earlier, maybe maximum 70% is the maximum possible we can do. Still 30% we should do manually. In such scenario, we have a separate testing team has to do this end-to-end system testing. So it's a combination of testing done by the agile team who work with development team closely, plus an independent testing team who test it outside of the sprint, or maybe as a part of a release cycle, they take care of it. So we need a combination of both. That's my experience, I feel.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned Agile a couple of times,
Yes.
I'm curious to know what has been your exposure
Yeah, yes,
and
yes, yes, yes.
experience with Agile.
Yes, it's also another cycle. The moment I switched from hardware to software testing, testing to delivery management. So I also had an opportunity to, as a delivery manager, I also had an opportunity to work in a kind of org transformation. So I had a very nice boss. He was very strategically mindset oriented person. So I had a lot of discussion with him how we can improve the way of working. So we started implementing Scrum, etc. But it was not enough. We had kind of 6 to 7 Scrum team in a platform setup, but that was not sufficient to scale actually. And also the customer side also a lot of challenges. Delivery need to be faster, and we need to have a more innovative way of doing things. So we need to manage agile way of working. Plus, we need to manage some kind of compliance activity because in automotive, we also need to follow certain standards like automotive spice, like a CMMI kind of thing. So we had a lot of challenge that time. How we need to transition this work. That's the time I got exposure to Scrum. So I got CSM certified. Then we experimented Scrum practices in a big way. Then my organization also decided to go into a kind of scaled agile. So because in automotive, all the projects are very large solution. So there's no team which is less than 50. So it's all 50 numbers, 100 people team if you want to deliver a solution. So normal Scrum approach will not work there in a large setup. So definitely we want to go scaling. That's the time I got certified in SPC, Safe Program Consultant. So that training really helped me to get a very good, deep understanding of scaled agile. And as a part of my delivery head role, one role was how do we transform our team towards scaled agile. So we did a lot of experiment there in a platform project. So we always wanted to do in a kind of experiment in a platform side because we don't want to experiment in a customer project and then get into a trouble. So I had a good setup where I can experiment and fail. Because culture also helps that. There's a very good support from the management side also. We can experiment something in the company within your own platform project. And then that's where scaled agile we implemented, and it was a good thing happened, and our platform delivery cycle became very faster after that. And this platform project delivers to many customer programs. So my agile experience started around 6 years back, and after that, yeah. So a lot of challenging transformation project we have done in my last 5 years. So I have done around 3 transformation, one on platform, and another 2 in a customer program. And all 3 in automotive.
Wonderful. So when you say agile transformation,
yes,
what are some of the critical, say, secrets for success?
Yes. Yeah. The first thing is, I will say is fundamentally very, very important is you need to have alignment from all the levels actually. So when you have a change, the people are confused at all levels. So we are disrupting an organization or a structure which was working fine for many years. If you ask anybody, they say it's working fine. Why do you want to change? But we need to make a change for a sustaining for future. So getting alignment across all levels was highly challenging because different people have different understanding on what is transformation. So that was the first challenge which I faced it. And the second part is you need to have the blessing from our top executive leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes what happens is you may have an idea to implement a certain way at your middle management level, but it may not sustain until the top executive sponsor it or support it in a right way. So otherwise, it may not be able to sustain transformation in a longer time. So these 2 aspects, from my point of view, very important. Getting alignment across all the people and getting the blessing from our top leadership. And the normal transformation life cycle that we need to have a discipline. So at any point of time, you may get unexpected issues. You may face a lot of challenges from team, customer, project, etc. But you need to overcome it by kind of courage, and then we will overcome it with a fantastic result at the end of the day. So it's a painful journey. So no transformation is smooth. So if somebody says transformation is smooth, I would say it is not. They're not done anything. So transformation has to be painful. That life cycle of transformation itself is like that. So everybody has to go through that pain. Sometimes we may go into depression. That's what they say. That the cycle, they say, is people will get into depression, and then they will get into a cycle of growth. Everybody know what they have to do. Everybody is aligned with the new way of working, and then it gives a lot of tremendous result at the end of the transformation. Yeah. So it was a kind of painful journey, but it is very rewarding in terms of learning and experience.
One of the common perceptions that we keep hearing is that Agile is effective because there are very few processes or no processes, and it gives you a lot of flexibility and pretty much, you discover along the way, etc. So coming from a more disciplined, structured, engineering-driven experience, and also in testing, again, you talked about how you have to look at the bigger picture, do it in a more structured way. How were you able to internalize the whole concept?
It was more of I need to unlearn myself. So I also always believed the Marshall Goldsmith principle. What you get there will not get there. What help you to get here will not get there, actually. So it was more of an unlearning for me, because initially when I was a tester, I was an anti-agile person. Around 10 years back, I used to tell people it won't work, and it is actually not a good thing for a development team. It creates a lot of pressure. It creates micromanagement. So I always had a kind of misconception, I would say. What I had was all misconception about Agile. It is a micro. So initially I thought it's a micromanagement. We need to track people on a daily basis, try to do some action to control them. That was a kind of mindset or a learning I had 10 years back when I had a very little knowledge. But the moment when I get to know this Agile mindset, then I realized that it is not about doing rituals. It is more of mindset about adapting and flexible way of working. That is what really important, the flexibility and adapting. Then I understood the concept. Then it is no more micromanagement. It is more of how to react fast, how to adapt fast. What can I do to do better? So the thinking changed. So it was more of unlearning for me from a traditional mindset to a kind of growth mindset. That's also one of the change which I need to do myself when I was transitioning from this traditional, orthodox, systematic way of thinking to blending both. So we need both the world, actually. It is not like a pure Agile, but it's a kind of blended approach where Agile is required in certain areas. Plus, we also need a certain areas in traditional way. We need to balance. So especially in automotive industry, I would say it is not a pure Agile. It is not pure traditional. It's always a kind of hybrid, I would say. So many embedded companies, like whether it is avionics or healthcare or in automotive, I saw most of the things as a kind of hybrid approach. Whatever is need to be Agile, it has to be Agile. Whatever things which is not needed, you should not apply Agile there. So many times what happens is we try to apply Agile everywhere. So we also have a concept. Agile has to be applied only when there is a need. So when there is a ambiguity, when there is a innovation, etc. So we should not apply Agile in a kind of traditional setup where there's a high predictability. So in that case, it is better to be kind of traditional way, but both have to work together. That is always a challenge. How we can combine this Agile team along with traditional team and get the result overall. So that's a challenge as a manager or leader into this organization will face, actually. Yeah.
One thing which probably going back to something that you had mentioned earlier also, it's about the segregation of responsibilities, say developer testing. You said sometimes later. So many times we find that developers and testers have a very strong identity to their roles.
Yes.
But how do you, with say at least concepts like DevOps or ways of working together?
Yes.
How have you been able to address the potential conflict between developers and testers?
Yeah. So here, it also depends upon how we assign. The behavior is always a side effect of your goal, actually. So initially what happens is testing team will have one goal, find maximum defect. Developer will have a goal, no defect. So in such a setup, it's a disaster. So this is the learning I had actually. So whenever we have a separate goal like this, so one function always pull the other function down actually. There is a lack of collaboration. So one good thing what happened in my career was the company itself moved into a kind of collaborative goal. At the end of the day, this is the goal as a program. Forget about testing or development as a project. This is the goal. When the goal became collaborative, then the behavior also changed actually. So then the tester talking to developer, developer talking to tester. So earlier, when a bug needs to be reproduced, tester will say, come later, come tomorrow. That was the kind of power he had actually. But today, the goal is to fix defect faster. Now, if you say come tomorrow, both of them get affected. So better you reproduce, prioritize, work with the development, and make sure the logs are available, and then developer can go back and fix it faster. So it became a kind of team goal rather than a kind of functional goal. So that the change in that goal setup really changed the behavior of people. That is really helped actually.
What are the critical skills that are needed to be a good and effective tester?
Yeah. Good question actually. So here, see, there are different kind of even testing is so there are different thinking actually. So one thinking is testing is a kind of scientific discipline. So we need to have a structured approach. Another philosophy is testing is an art. People say testing is an art, and which is more of exploration. It is not a technical skill. It is more of social skills or innovation or that kind of exploration skill actually. So there are two schools actually. So I would say here also we need both actually. So we cannot be only a exploratory tester, creatively thinking and finding defect. It's good. So you may find certain defects. At the same time, you also need a kind of scientific background, the scientific way of thinking. So if a person is able to do both, that is the time he finds his sweet spot in the testing career. So normally the people tend to be oriented towards either of these. Either you become more of a exploratory tester. So those people don't like automation. They don't do a kind of structured test case-based testing. So they want to be only freestyle testing. On the other side, there are people who write test cases, do automation, execute test cases, but then that is limited. You can't find all the defect. Yeah. So I would say getting the mindset oriented towards this either side. Take the best from exploratory side, take the best from automation and the test case technique side, and adapt to the context. So that way it is really needed. And then another second important factor is good stakeholder management. Because tester, if you find some defects in a critical project, he will be the central focus. The moment you raise an issue, everybody will focus on issue, either in a good side or bad side. Why you found the defect now, or how to help the team to fix it faster. Either side it will happen. So you need to deal with a lot of stakeholders from customer side, internally, development side, management side. So until you communicate and articulate the issue in a clear way, we are going to take a long time to fix the defect. Sometimes bug fixing may be a very simple step, one line changes. And if you are not able to reproduce this issue in a very systematic way or articulate the issue in a systematic way, unnecessarily it takes a long time with the various ping pong. So if you look at the defect management, you can see the ping pong. One person, another person, he says to another person. And this delay is mainly coming because of not articulating the issue in a clear way. That is something we need to learn actually. So we don't need this multiple ping pong. Sometimes the issue which takes 2 weeks, maybe a clear articulation and direct communication may help in fixing in one day. So that is the kind of mindset we should develop. Articulating the issue in a good way. Plus, choosing the right approach for the context will help.
Yeah, that's very useful, Venu. As we are coming to the close of time for this conversation, I normally like to get our guests' guidance on career tips. For two segments of people. One, say those who are considering a career in IT. And second is people who have been doing some roles or some things in IT itself, but a
Yes.
non-testing role,
Yes.
whether they can consider shifting to testing, or how can they contribute effectively in the testing
Yes,
space?
yes. It is possible. Actually, testing is, see, it's not a rocket science. So it is basically the interest actually. So testing is a profession if you have the passion to critically review the product. So some people say it is a negative activity or a kind of not in a good way. So actually testing is a kind of positive activity because at the end of the day, you are trying to make a better product for a customer. So if you think in the direction, it is really a positive activity. And if you think like that, you will really like your work actually. So don't treat testing as a kind of destructive activity, but actually you are helping to construct a product in a better way, which will be useful for the customer. So that way you it's a creative activity. So that is very required actually. Otherwise, you get into kind of negative mindset, or after some time, you may even affect this in your personal life. Sometime I have seen at some point of time, I was thinking too much actually because of this critical mindset. You become critic to yourself. So whatever you do, you may not be happy with it. So that's the kind of balance you need to have. So that also will take time. So at the end of the day, if you think testing as a positive activity, and also if you have a passion for learning new technology, so at the end of the day, testing methodologies will be common, but the way you test the product is different. So the way you test healthcare system or avionics system or automotive system, these are all different actually. So you need to continuously learn actually new technologies. Even the testing tools will keep changing. The kind of tool which I used when I was a tester and the tools which you have with the AI-based tool, totally different. So whatever I used to struggle for 2 weeks, today you can do in 1 day. That's a change. So you need to continuously adapt to the new tools, new methodologies. So you need to start continuously learn is very important. It's not something you learn something work for 2-3 years. So you need to have this interest and try to attend some kind of testing conferences. So I have published some papers in international testing conferences in India, Step in Forum as well as QISTC, and then have a kind of community of practice within the company where you learn testing from other departments or other companies. So these things will help you to think in a big picture and also apply the learning from other side to in your context, because there is no single solution and nobody know what solution in your context. You need to experiment. It's always experimenting what worked in another context, see whether it works here, and continuously learn from that and try to improve your testing abilities.
Wonderful.
So continuous learning is very key here.
Yeah. Would these also be relevant for somebody who's considering starting a career in IT?
Yes. It is important. So once you start, it is good actually. So basically the trouble is getting started. So many times what happens is the companies may not be taking the risk to hire an engineer with non-IT. So that is where the issue happens actually. So sometimes what happened is I have seen some of friends, they work in a kind of small companies, get that kind of experience of this testing in a particular product. So once you have this hands-on experience, then definitely the world is yours. You can try anywhere else. Sometimes big companies may not have this habit of hiring a tester, totally different domain, but definitely you can try actually. So in my case, I have hired a test engineer from healthcare, hired test engineers from avionics into automotive. So it works actually. So you always get a different perspective once you have people from different contexts.
On that positive note, thank you, Venu, for sharing your experience and your perspectives and highlighting the significance and the role that testers play in creating software that creates experiences, positive experiences for users. Thank you, Venu.
So thank you, Guru. It was a very nice experience for me also. So thank you for a wonderful discussion for the last 1 hour. Very good.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.